This is a global skills podcast, conversations that shape the future of work and learning. We're exploring how we close the skills gap and build a future where everyone has the chance to thrive. From education to business, connecting people, ideas, and opportunities that drive change. It's about collaboration, curiosity, and creating real impact today. Because every skill learned brings us one step closer to a more inclusive world. The Global Skills Podcast, where learning and opportunity come together. Today's guest is Joe Dalton, a leader who has spent more than 3 decades redefining the skills that power high-performance sales. As the creator of Salescraft, Joe helps founders and teams build the human capabilities that matter most: structured thinking, confident communication, emotional clarity, and buyer-centered conversations. An award-winning broadcaster, TEDx speaker, and author, he's advised accelerators, EU initiatives, and growth-minded CEOs across the US and Europe. Joe's work proves that when you strengthen skills, you strengthen results. Joe, you're very welcome to the Global Skills Podcast.
And I am delighted to be here today. So thank you very much for the invitation.
So there's so much we can cover, but if we could start off early on, because I think one of the things that you highlight on your LinkedIn profile and you talk a lot about is you've been in the world of sales for a very, very long time. What got you into sales and what's kept you in sales?
What got me in sales, I believe it was 13 when I sold a baked potato, or I spoke about the wonderful tasting baked potato, and someone handed me money. And I went, holy cow, I just got money for talking. And I knew at that time that I was going to be on a road or a journey in sales. Most people jump into sales because they may have been failed in something else, or they feel it's an easy street. But for me, it was that love of human connection and the love of language, and I mean communication between two people. And as I go on through those decades, it's all about skill, and skill is so important to anybody in any career. That skill set that you must have to be a professional in whatever career you choose. And for me, it was sales.
And I think what's really interesting now in this new world of AI, more and more people are referencing human skills or people skills or soft skills. But what do you think is the definition of human skills?
Definition of human skills is the relationship between you and the outcome.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. And so you, over the years, have obviously got to a point where you've been able to develop a framework around this process of being able to sell. Can you talk a little bit about the framework and why you felt that there was a need to design something like that to support sales professionals?
When we think of sales, people just think of talking, a lot of people, or it's trying to get someone to buy something. And sales goes a lot deeper. Sales has been in conversation since before Christ. Go back to Aristotle, where it's all about human connection and talking. And different sales have to have different conversations. So there's a difference between selling something into a nightclub or selling something for like a car. And then there are complex sales where there may be 6 or 7 people of decision makers. So all of these have the same principle of communication, but each one has to be carried differently because of the price or the implications of what you are selling has on the other people as well. So I looked at sales, we're God, 3 decades. It's a long time now and getting longer. And I broke it down into all the different elements that you have. And in each of those elements or each of those steps, there's bridges that needs to be created between each conversation or part of that conversation that leaps you into the next part, into the next part, into the next part. And selling isn't about just talking. It's about listening. It's being able to have that understanding. And what you're really trying to find out from the person who's the purchaser is DBM, their dominant buying motive, vision, what it's going to do to change their life. Not just, we talk about why does someone buy a drill? It's because they want a home improvement. It's not to drill a hole. drill a hole in the wall and go, beautiful, I just bought the drill and put it down, sell home. And sales should be addressed that way as well,
And is sales an art or science?
both. Psychologically, you have triggers that tap into the person's subconscious mind, and the art is being able to navigate that conversation, which sometimes feels like a dance.
And I think what is really profound at the moment, I think the listeners will have, if you're a leader and you're working in an organization, you're maybe thinking, because I'm hearing these conversations, will we need salespeople? Because they're already developing sales development representatives that are fully automated. And at the same time, we might have listeners who are unemployed who are thinking, actually, can I apply some of Joe's methodology to interviews and trying to sell myself to get an interview? If we start with the leaders, and they're, a lot of them are just looking at how do we cut heads and how do we just drive revenue. What are your thoughts around the automation of the sales process or elements of that 13 stage process that you were talking
Well,
about?
let's look at sales, and let's look at the sales department from a 360 point of view. Forget about the conversation part. Sales, if you're selling something small, carton of milk, a widget, all automated, and people no longer really need that sales interaction. But if you're selling a high price ticket or you're selling something of complex, if that deal goes pear shape and it's being created by AI, who are you going to go back to and have a conversation with to fix it? The AI? Not really. So people need reassurance and they need trust. And the other part of it as well, if you try and automate too much from this as a business leader, and this is, I'm guessing when you say a business leader, are these people that are earning between under 5 million or are these people earning over 5 million? So, there's different conversations. But if you automate everything, you actually can end up damaging your business. Automation is fine. AI is fine, both as assistants to the sales department. But if you try and automate it in a place where we're not really, we're still in the infancy stage of AI, you
Mm.
can actually damage your business because you're relying on something that you can't see. And people now are getting fatigued with the amount of AI that's being approached. And what we're finding as well, there is, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of garbage out there at the moment. And there's a lot happening now that isn't authentic. And there is information that's just been, it's like spamming everyone all the time.
Mm.
And that's having its effect. And people now are craving honest conversations, intelligent conversations. And that's the key of where the sales department will thrive.
I hope that just gives pause for thought for some leaders who are maybe on the brink of, making redundancies and really take a step back and question the knowledge that your humans have before they depart is so valuable in that context.
Well, AI and automation should be used as a tool to make an apartment flow better. I don't believe that it should be used as a full replacement. And will AI buy the mortgage? Will AI go down to the supermarket and buy groceries?
Mm.
Will AI go and buy a car? Will AI buy your product and use it to function in its day-to-day life? Because we may use these tools to speed up and try and make more profit for the company. But if everybody is using AI and there is no people employed, where does that leave society itself as well?
Yeah, where are your customers? They're gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
or they have empty wallets.
And you may only be looking at the person, but it's looking at the next person. It's like one of the reasons why I refuse to use the automated checkouts in a supermarket
This is a
because it's taking jobs away
Yeah.
from people.
Yeah, I agree. And if you think of many of the people that work in those jobs, they tend to be older and, maybe it would be very hard for them to go now and find another opportunity. And
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you'll see in some cases, I know we're going off track, but I can recall when I was in a bank at the teller, which was always a nightmare to queue up for. And they said, "What are those machines?" "Oh, these are automated machines. You'll never have to queue again." And you know what the girl looked at me and went, "Oh yeah," So
Yeah.
there is being able to see what's in front of us and being able to see what's ahead of us, and I think that's important for organizations who are looking for skills for the next, decade. So with skill sets in all departments, and you have, say, accountants or tech people or whoever they may be, who are coming out of college or who are in the workplace now for the first 2, 3 years. And those people may feel threatened because when they were in college, AI
Mm.
wasn't around. And now they're in the workplace, and this magic, hallucinogenic piece of people pleasing software has suddenly arrived. And they're going, what am I going to do? So every career coming out of college now, they not only have to be skilled in what they do, but they also have to be certified in AI engineering prompting as part of their skill set as well.
Yeah, it's really, really key. And I think tapping into young people, I want to loop back to your amazing sales framework because 20 years ago, the business that we were in, again, it was recruitment, but it was around taking in people who were not getting called for interview. And we saw the potential in them, the human potential. So maybe on paper, they weren't getting screened at the time for not having the right experience, being young. Maybe they were returning to the workplace having been a stay-at-home parent or, they had disabilities, whatever it might be. But if we felt that they really had the potential, they just needed the confidence, the skills, maybe a little bit more awareness around emotional intelligence and so on. In that 1 week, that was our objective to get them ready for the corporate world. And it was an incredible program. And they went on to be really successful. But a key element of that was the interview. And even now, if I think about it, everything is so automated. Click apply for a job. It's ChatGPT, generate your CV. The only thing that can make you stand out is actually your communication and negotiation and presentation skills. So what do you think is transferable in the skill sets that you're teaching currently in sales to young people who are at home listening, unemployed? Is there anything that they could do to help them stand out and get an opportunity?
And life itself is all about self esteem, who we are, and the confidence that we have. The best investment that anybody can make in any career, any time in their life, to get that job or to stay in that job when everyone else is being let go. And that is investing in oneself, investing, upskilling, learning new skills. And one of those skills is confidence and it's self esteem. So, to answer your question, if someone is in a career or looking to get into a career, the first things that they have to be able to see are cues in body language, also be able to see, understand how to respond to without rabbiting on and making no sense in the conversation. And what I would say to them is it's about being concise and on point. That if someone in an interview asks them a question, pause, then articulate what the question to you is. And you'd be surprised that I've done many interviews when I've asked questions and people have given me answers which mean nothing to the question that was asked. So it's about practice. And one of the greatest things that anybody should do, and they're all over the world and they're all over the country, is invest in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters they're very much a community of normal people who learn how to speak for 7 minutes. But it not only just lets you speak for 7 minutes, it actually helps you just become a better communicator. The other part, when we teach or train or coach or mentor sales teams on the art of communication, they come back to us and says, you not only have improved my ability to sell, but you've also improved my ability to have better communication with family, colleagues, and generally with everyone as well.
It's kind of the bedrock in life. And I know it's quite a long time since I was in school. But even if I look back to when I was in school, we didn't really cover that. The closest we got to was English and maybe learning about communication styles, really from maybe poetry or plays. I mean, I can't recall a time where someone assessed my ability to communicate and my confidence levels, and then even going through college, the same again. But yet, it's a fundamental thing, and I don't think it's evolved even now. If I look at second level education,
If you go onto Google and look, what's one of the biggest searches, it'll be communication. How can I be better at communicating is up there in the billions. And communication is quite simple. Listen and respond to your best ability. And it's also asking questions with questions as well. The world is made up of teaching people to react to everything. And we can see that over the last decade, but it's not teaching people how to respond.
that's a really, really good point. And I did a sort of a fun exercise with my daughters. They're young, okay. My eldest has just started secondary school, but we were driving along, and I was recalling the sales training from all those years ago. I had this phenomenal American trainer that I got to work with, and he would try and teach people open questions. But the way we're sort of taught, it's very much you ask a closed question where the answer is yes or no. And so when I asked my children, I was like, okay, let's have a conversation. You can only ask me open questions. And they're young, but they really struggled. They really, really did. What do you think about the difference between those questions? And are you seeing when you go into an organization and start training the workforce, are they naturally very good at open questions to get the customers talking?
Practice makes perfect. So you will go into an organization and they will be somewhat generally equipped in demoing their product. Unfortunately, they have the belief that if I just demo my product, the customer or the buyer will fall in love with it and buy. But that's not the case. The case is that you could be demoing a product or service, and the part that you're demoing has no reflection on what the client actually needs it for. So, one of the biggest parts that we focus on is asking the right questions. Because when you ask the right questions, then when you show your product or service, it actually means more to your buyer. What questions should you always be asking? Wants, needs, time, authority, capital. And what you're doing with these 5 questions, which could be 5 categories, which could have 20 questions, depending on where the conversation leads. You're trying to find a person's dominant buying motive, call it a DBM. And that's the one reason why the person would need, want, or desire what you have to offer. Part one, then there is the giving the presentation. But the other elements which we find that people struggle with when I don't like to say the word objections, I like to say concerns. What concerns does the person have, and what reassurance can you offer them when these concerns come up? And the skill within the sales department or the owner or founder is actually to able to, when they hear a concern, is able to answer it with confidence as the conversation flows instead of hitting a concern, getting stumped, struggling, babbling, and the confidence has gone out the door. So there is a framework and a structure into a conversation. And sometimes it's like a barrister. You go into court and the barrister has all the questions and all the answers, but he's practiced it. He knows it. So sales is not about just winging it. It's a profession that can actually change how a company functions and the success of a company. And it should be given the time, the effort, and the love like every other department within a company. And also, I just wrote a newsletter on LinkedIn. I think it's going out on Monday. If a founder or an owner is attacking his sales department, it's not the sales department that is the problem. It's no structure, no framework. There's no system, processes, or behaviors in place that they can measure. And then they take it out on the sales team when they should actually be looking at themselves going, okay, what am I missing? What structure, what framework, what behavior, what process have I not got in place that I can measure?
And I think now is the right time to do that. Like we've just launched an AI skills readiness assessment for companies to show them maybe where their workforce need to be upskilled, specifically around AI, but other skills. And while you're doing that, look at the systems, structures, and framework, because there's no better time. If you are able to augment the workforce with AI to be more productive, now is the time to put in systems. But I think as you described that process of selling, I immediately thought about all of the hiring managers and learning managers who are in quite a difficult place right now. So they're receiving from C suite information around let's cut heads, but maybe they have a different strategy that they'd like to sell back to C suite that doesn't involve dropping heads. Is it the same process when it's going up within the organization to get what you need?
My first question would be, obviously, you have a reason for mentioning this. Do you mind if I ask why?
Yeah, it's come up a lot. Not necessarily live in the interviews that we're doing for the Global Skills podcast, but off the record conversations. And the what I'm being told is that it's very difficult to get buy-in from the C-suite when what they're reading is their peers are cutting employee headcount.
Okay. So just supposing for a moment this wasn't a concern, does the idea still sound good to you?
Which idea is that? Being able to pitch to the C-suite
Yeah.
to retain 100%. I mean, there will always be natural churn in an organization. There will always be the underperformers who naturally they should move on. But I think we're in a current place where amazingly talented people who are good at their roles are actually being reconsidered
Okay.
for that role. So yeah,
So what I've just said to you in those two sentences are the same sort of language and sentences that those hiring managers should be saying to the C-suite executive. So I said two things to you. One was, obviously you have a reason for saying this. Do you mind if I ask what it is? And you told me. And then I said, well, just supposing that wasn't a concern, does the idea still sound good to you? And what I did there was I picked up the concern like I'm going to say, my phone, and I parked it to the side. So we're isolating that. So it's irrelevant. And we're seeing does all the rest of everything look good. And what I'm saying is that communication internally and externally within an organization has to be somewhat structured to find out what the concerns are and then how you can address those concerns. So with you saying, yeah, these are great ideas, then those lower level managers have to then come back in with a here's why, here is the reason, here is the benefit, and here is the real benefit. So they need to be addressing that to C suite executive. So the reason is the offer, the benefit is the logic, and the real benefit is emotional because everybody buys. We ask questions logically, we buy emotionally, but we justify our decision on on the logical questions that we answer.
amazing. That's really amazing. Okay, one more scenario. I do think this is just not for sales professionals listening. This is for really anyone because we're
It's
constantly selling.
communication. Yeah.
It's communication. So, say for example, and it could be either scenario, you're trying to pitch this idea or strategy within the organization, or you're in a high ticket sale environment and you're not dealing with the ultimate decision maker, but you can't get to them because of your position in the company or who you're dealing with. They're saying, no, let me take it, I'll represent you, and I'll present it to the ultimate decision maker. What do you do in that scenario?
Well, in every complex sale, there are four different archetypes. So you have the archetype, which is, we call that the buyer, the money man. Then we have the tech guy. Then we have the end user and we have the friend. Now, we know who the money man is, could be the owner, it could be financial controller in a procurement, location, or it could be someone you in a different country. Never know. But then you have the tech guy, which could be the person who buys the, he's the one that looks at all the programs that you're selling. You have the end user. They're the person who may feel a little bit of anxiety because
Mhm.
this new training program is coming in and they're unsure. So there, and then you have the friend. The tech guy are always the hardest to sell to because it's their baby. They've been doing this for years and they're the ones that you have to really nurture. So you have four people, those four archetypes. Those four archetypes could be three people or they could be 10 people. And you have to have a conversation that represents each one of those archetypes. And it's not the conversation that you have at that moment in time. So if it's the buyer, you have to leverage your communication externally for what you put on paper and what they see online. So you actually are speaking their language because it's a different communication with them than with the end user. But you need to be able to have structure in your conversation that touch all them and all their psychological points as well.
And in that scenario, the hope is that you end up dealing with the decision maker, the money person, by taking that approach rather than someone saying, "Let me do it for you."
Everything is always diluted. So
Yeah.
you could say, we have a great system. And they go, how did you get on? Oh, they're the Norway system. Okay. So that part happens. Remember, it's about grabbing attention, curiosity. It's about conviction of what you're having to do. It's creating the desire. So going back, and I believe in preempting. So everything has to be preempted. That's why we teach clients how they never get ghosted. Well, you may get ghosted sometimes, but how to eliminate 95% of ghosting. And that's to do with, there's two parts of it. One is people stop communicating with you when they have no longer value in what you're saying. They've got all that information and now they don't see any more value. And then there's the other part of it is that when you're doing that discovery, remember I said the 5 conversation elements, contact, you're talking about needs, wants, time, capital, authority, etc. In that part, you have to be able to have that conversation with the person that stimulates them enough that they need to have maybe bring in the person who's the money man into the conversation because what you're showing them has real value to them as well.
So it's building that excitement, but not giving everything away.
Well, yeah, there's claims and there's big
Mhm.
claims and small claims, but it's evaluating the conversation before you move through. So you can speak to a company. If you do discovery right, you can push them aside and go, not for us, don't fit our, client. Thank you. Bye bye. And work on the company that do. Most people speak to a company, do the demonstration, and find out at the end, after spending years, that they're not the right company where they should have figured that out at the discovery.
And I've one final question because this has really felt like a skills masterclass around sales and communication. It's been amazing, Joe. My question is, and again, every time I feel I'm asking a question, I don't think I'm just doing it for the sales process. I feel like I'm doing it for those that are early talent, mid career, going for interviews, getting rejected. You're trying to pitch your strategy in the business, but it is on the point of rejection. You talk about ghosting there, and ghosting's happening a lot at the moment. People are just not getting called back. How do you handle that? Like, we're human, we're emotional beings. Some of us can take it personal when someone doesn't get back to us. What should someone do in that scenario so that you can kick on and move on?
Don't let it happen. Set up the next communication before. So most people will go, yeah, that's great, wonderful. Let's circle back next week and I'll drop you an email and blah 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 blah. Instead of saying, yeah, look, what my suggestion is that we're going to do A, B, and C, whatever that is. Have you got your calendar open there? Are you free on Wednesday or Thursday at 2 o'clock next week? Okay, while you're there, I'm going to ping this into you. I'm going to ping it in. Have you got it? Okay, sound. So we'll meet up in 2 weeks' time on that date. That will eliminate probably maybe the majority of your ghosting.
And I know it's not an answer for people that are, applying for jobs and not
But
getting
if you're applying for a job, it's a different. So that's on the sales aspect. If
calls.
someone is applying for a job, what you have to do is before you blow it off, is make sure that the opening statement of what you have if it's an email or whatever, is that it creates that curiosity that the person feels the need that they want to know more at the next meeting. Example, I was just speaking to a client this morning. I'm looking for like using props, but I haven't got a prop here. So pretend I have a box here.
Mhm.
Okay. And in this box, it's lovely wrapping paper and it's got a lovely ribbon on it. And I'm showing you this box and go, look, I have something in here that's going to save you time. Your curiosity will want to know what's in the box. And when I open the box and I pull out a neck timer, you'll go, so what? And your curiosity has been filled and it's okay, so what? So I need to explain to you why this will save you time and the benefit and the real benefit of why this egg timer has an amazing amount of value. If someone is applying for a job, they have to think of it that way.
And I guess when any of us think about describing ourselves as the asset, if that's what you can say in the
They're an asset, yeah.
process, yeah. Again, some people feel uncomfortable about that, but it is really important to be able to look at yourself objectively and think, well, I guess a little bit like sales, what are the features and benefits relevant to the employer or company or opportunity that I'm being considered for, and be able to articulate that well.
Okay, so my question would be, say you were looking at speaking, say someone in their 20s and they're looking at their career. And the question I would ask if I was them to myself, what is it I want? And what do I need to have to fulfill my own desire? And also giving myself permission to actually say, okay, I can start from now. And you have to keep reinventing yourself to get to that place. I don't know how much time we have left, but I'll tell you a story. When I was in my 20s, I always had a question of, I've seen so many people struggle. Like I've been in sales all my life and I've made a good living from it. And I've always seen people struggle and I always had a question is, life should be easier. There's homeless and there's people struggling with mortgages. But I always think life should be easier. And I think then only through my quest to finding out what that is, I realized it's society expects us to be good at something. And most people just tap along. And what we need to do, if you want to be really successful in your industry, in your career, is invest in yourself and become the number one person, the expert in your industry. So you're sought after. People want to do business with you. And the better that you get, if we're talking about employers, there's a difference between taking on someone who doesn't know something or someone that really knows it because it saves time. And time is the only thing that we're short of reality. And it's hiring that person that's put in the time and the effort to get really good at the skill. They're the people that you want to hire.
We have a closing tradition, Joe, to the podcast where I ask two questions, but you only have to answer one. Question one: have you a skill that you used when you were younger that you don't currently use and you'd like to again? And if so, why? Question two: for the listeners today who are not working, they've just been made redundant, or they haven't even got off the starting line, are there any key skills, but I feel like you have touched on this, that they should really hone in on while they're in this, you could say, open space in their life to invest in themselves? What would be the skill that they should try and acquire to give them the best chance possible?
Which one would you like me to answer first?
I'm intrigued by the first, if I'm honest.
It's a tough one, actually, but a skill that was I good at, or
You
would
don't
I?
have to be good at it, but you'd like to maybe have it back in your life again.
Yeah, musical instrument. Yeah, I remember picking up the guitar when I was younger and never really put the time and effort into it. I look in now. I was on another podcast there, and I was saying they were asked me what skills would I like, and it's the same one. I now would love to learn a musical instrument, and maybe that may be a keyboard because I can memorize 5 or 6 songs and those songs will be the party piece. Now, I have to pick songs that won't go out of date, but yeah, I'd love to be able to play a musical instrument because it's a vibration that makes us all feel happy as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I hope you make it happen.
Well, I keep dropping hints to the family to buy me keyboard for Christmas, but I didn't get it last year. If I don't get it this year, I'll have to buy one myself. So yeah, maybe they don't want me to play. Maybe that's it. And the other question that you have as well, you're okay where you are, and people shouldn't beat themselves up or have anxiety or, feeling inadequate for who they are. We all have a different skill set. We just need to take the courage to find it. And we only do that by experience. And the more experience we have, it trumps knowledge. So if anyone there is being made redundant or are unsure, we've all been there, and it can be a scary place. But sometimes we can find lessons in the bad or the unfortunate to move us to where we want to be. So keep pushing, keep moving, and there's something which is called it's KPI, and we all think of KPIs, key performance indicators, but it's really about it's knowledge, and then with that knowledge, it's implementing it, which then brings us to potentiality. And the more knowledge we get, the more we implement it, the greater that we have to potentiality. And if we get lots of knowledge and don't implement it, potentiality drifts away. And it's about just keep doing it. And it's hard and it's time, but eventually it breaks. And if I always say to sales teams when I'm speaking to them or CEOs and I'm mentoring CEOs, is that a phone call can change your life for the better. One phone call.
Joe, thank you so much. You have certain expectations for an episode, and given the fact that you are a media veteran, I would say there was a little bit of apprehension for my skills of being able to interview you. But this has just been eye-opening, and you've gently reminded me how what you're training within organizations, it cross-pollinates right down to each human and what we do every day in our life. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and doing the interview with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whether you're leading a business, shaping education, planning your next career move, or just starting out, you're part of a global conversation about how we learn, work, and grow. If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe so you never miss what's next. And for early access to new episodes, first invites to events, and a chance to connect with others driving real change, join the community at globalskillspodcast.com, because the future of skills belongs to all of us.